hood, sipping swing free. Hanging with your bitch, never save me. I stay close to my niggas, no one like me. Aiming at your extension, beside me. Hanging in your hood, sipping swing free. Hanging with your bitch, she beside me. I stay close to my niggas, no one like me. Aiming at your extension, beside me. Concerts, I'm a breaker. Sometimes it leads to anger, but I'm used to letting everyone down. People used to think me a savior, but they started to pay more attention to my behavior now. I'll fuck a nigga up, put in a position, don't need no attention. You know I'm a rough a nigga up. Did I ever mention I'm the type to pull a pussy nigga butt up in a cup? Once I'm really getting this stuff, you'll come to learn that I can never get enough. I hope you ain't the type to call me a magic trick. I will make a nigga disappear overnight. Fucking up with your back, forget every sight. I got dreams, fuck me the hell of a night. My brother that told you will have a hell of a night. I'm really on hood, sipping inspiring. Fucking on your bitch, think she like me. I stay close to all my niggas, know what I mean. Aiming at you with such intention, fuck beside me.
So one of your songs, I just played a minute of it, and we're here in the podcast now. Welcome to Lab Grown, episode, I don't know. It's the episode after the Vlad episode. I'm here with d4taless. What's up?
Hey, not too much. What's good with you?
Just chilling. Thanks for we are recording. We're doing a midnight episode. This is a real late night one.
It's true. On some midnight marauders type shit. It's beautiful out here.
So we just decided what podcast we were going to do minutes before this. Mm-hmm. So I have to open the questions for Lab Grown.
That's fair.
But this is where I also plug, if you're listening, I'm starting a second podcast. It'll probably be on the air by the time you hear this. It's called The Breakdown. It's on Music Mondays, the music media outlet. Well, not just specifically music. We cover everything, but mainly music, which is why we're called Music Mondays. But we're a media outlet, a website, a YouTube channel. We do written articles. We're real cool. Yeah. We've had d4taless on our SoundCloud Sundays playlist.
I've been there. That's true.
Yes. But the podcast is called The Breakdown. So Lab Grown will no longer be doing album specials, as we will be moving on to specifically doing that with The Breakdown. So we're sticking with the regular episode format from here on out. So our episode with d4taless. So Data.
Yeah, what's up?
Where are you from?
Ooh, that's such a simple question, and it's one that I always have trouble answering. I was born and raised in Austin, Texas, and then I moved out to Tucson, Arizona for a while. And I lived in Arizona for like 10 years. Right now I'm in New York. That's where I'm living right now.
In New York? New York State or New York, New York?
State. I'm not in New York City.
Hey, New York State is, what I've seen, it's gorgeous.
It's pretty as hell out here. That's true. It's pretty as shit. It's beautiful.
Not to dox your whole address, but how far from the city are you?
Not especially. I could drive there over like a weekend if I felt like it. It's like scary there though. It's a PvP zone, you know. It's not like
for real. You really do enter a PvP zone there, especially if you drive there. Like, yeah, if you're close enough to drive, then you should just drive. And then you have your goddamn car in New York City, and it is hell on earth. I've been in a car there, and I hated it.
I can imagine. I've seen some vehicles during the time that they were in there, and it's not a good time to my knowledge. It's not a fun time for them. I've seen traffic in that city. God.
You've seen traffic? Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, I see there's an anonymous panda in the Google Doc. Someone's reading along.
Oh, shit. I wonder who that could be. That's wild.
Yeah. That'd be so funny if I'm doing the podcast one night and there's like 3 of them in there, and I'm just interviewing one person. Like, who
Somebody brought
did
the set. Somebody decided to just pull
people
up.
start editing it.
You ever pull up on a podcast Google Doc and just like wreak havoc for no reason, just for fun?
That's good. I'm gonna start changing this that anyone can edit it. I'll make like a personal private copy that like in case it gets fucked up too bad, but I'm gonna start letting people edit it before the episodes. Just like throw some stuff on here.
Do your homework.
Make some jokes. Yeah. But Data, I don't want to dox you on the podcast if you don't want. But how do you want people to address you? Just as Dataless? How?
Ooh, you could call me Data. If you would like, you could call me Gene. That's a name I've been using lately.
Gene.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You always pick like the dopest names.
I'd like to believe it's one of my strengths. I be running up them naming conventions. I got a list of fucking names on my phone right now. Just piles of them.
Well, names are so fun. Like,
That's fair.
I don't know. I feel like you've known me. I've gone through like so many monikers in the past like year.
Oh God, yeah, that's true. It's okay. That's real.
And then like by doing that, I've gone through so many nicknames too.
Yeah, you just run right through them because like you gotta go fast and loose with it when you're using multiple names and when you're switching them off like that. You can't just stick hard to one. Doesn't make as much sense, I feel.
Yeah. But it is good, like, as an artist, to have one name you release things under and just keep it that way.
Yeah.
And then, like, change your name everywhere else. Even though I know personally, I want to change my moniker again already. I'm like, I shouldn't be my name. I should be something else.
No, that's fair. I've been trying so hard not to just, like, change to, like, a 4th moniker. Oh, God. I don't need it, I don't have to do that, but like it's there and I could if I felt like it, if I really wanted to.
Yeah. It's nice to have the option.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
It's not always good to take up the option.
That's fair. It's not always the best choice to make, but it certainly is a choice to make if you want to make something happen in your life.
And so how would you describe Dataless?
Oh.
Musically.
Oh my God. Oh, that's a good question. Recently, I at the very least, the shit I've been writing lately is like indie music over discount Slay World beats, and I'm really happy about that. Admittedly, like I feel like I could do worse than that.
That's a great concept too. Just like. You should definitely like sell it like that.
Yeah, I be pushing ideas and the general lyrical concepts which can be encapsulated in music that sounds like mine in ways that are considerable. They're noteworthy. I like my shit, but it's weird. I'm not gonna pretend it's not. I think that's part of the fun of it.
Absolutely, that's like my favorite thing about it is that you, especially like. Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I bumped that EP for eternity and I can't remember the name.
No, it's fine. My memory's got mad burn holes in it. I understand. It's a grimoire.
Oh yes, grimoire. How could I forget? So I'll edit this in post, blah blah blah, or maybe I'll keep it and take this part out.
Hey, it's okay.
Who knows? But so grimoire, that EP is. Like at first glance, if you aren't like listening hard enough or whatever, it just sounds like, a rap album or a rap EP. But
I could understand that perception of it, yeah.
But then you really get into it. You just get into the lyrics. You really listen to the beats and like how they're composed, and it's like, this is honestly like digital punk rock without trying to be punk rock, You're just like pushing sound.
Shit, I mean, I'll take it. Thank you.
Pushing, I meant to say pushing genre, not pushing sound.
I get what you mean.
Yeah, but so what I'm gonna change it. I know you're reading the Google Doc. I'm gonna switch it up on you.
Oh no,
Wow.
I'm scared.
What are your influences sonically? Like where?
Ooh, that's a good.
What do you draw from?
Oh my god. So much. Mostly, mostly video game music. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't have many friends growing up, as I'm sure some people have guessed by now, but that led to me doing a lot of shit and playing a lot of video games. I listened to like straight video game music for probably the first 10 to 12 years of my life. Um, like,
Oh yeah, and yeah. Sorry.
no, you're good. Just like in terms of like deliberate choice anyway. I listened to a lot of Frank Ocean. He taught me to be esoteric and often unnecessarily expressive in my songwriting at times. I say unnecessary, but that shit's just. Ooh.
Yeah, I get what you're saying when you say unnecessary, because like there is no point in which in reality it's unnecessary. You know what I mean, to express yourself.
Yeah, that's fair.
But there is that point of trying to make a product for other people that there's a line there
Yeah.
that if you don't do it well, it's a fault.
Decided.
But if you do it,
But
yeah. But like, yeah, you and Frank Ocean both do it very well though. Of that, just like, shit. Should I even be hearing this sometimes? You know, like, was this for me? I don't think so.
I be putting a lot of shit on the mic. That man certainly God, he strips back a lot of the bullshit from what he's saying and just puts it pretty, not necessarily plainly, but not with a ton of set dressing. He doesn't tend to give you a bunch of shit to sift through, and I try to run with that philosophy, even if it can come through interesting sometimes because of the way that I choose to actually write my lyrics.
And so, you do write your lyrics. You're a written artist, not a freestyler.
For the most part, I have been known to freestyle on occasion. I tend to for features just because like the ideas come to me a little more cleanly and a little more cohesively when I'm more in the flow of it, like actually working with the work that I'm trying to add to. But when it comes to my own stuff, I kind of have to deliberate on it a lot before I can really grasp what I'm trying to say, if that makes sense.
All right. Yeah, that makes total sense. And like that is props to you to A, being able to freestyle, and B, as a featured artist, to take what else is there and work with it. You'd be surprised. A lot of people, especially like in big studio albums, don't do that.
Yeah. It's interesting at times, the kinds of things that people put on feature tracks. Sometimes it feels like my feature work is like better than my solo, just because I tend to draw a lot more from what I'm recording over, and as a result of that, like when it's just my own ideas, it can sort of get a little echo chambery after a little while, you know, just because it's my production that I'm recording over, and then on top of that, it's my lyricism and it's my vocals that I'm going to be putting on. And like I initially learned to do a lot of what I was doing all by myself, so I didn't have to worry about finding other people to do it. But it's less helpful than you'd think being able to do that, like just because it leads to me building on a lot of my own ideas, and it builds out to constructs that would definitely not necessarily find themselves in other people's work, but are a lot at times to like sort of pare down and get into a listenable and consumable state.
Yeah, absolutely. As someone who, you know, can self-produce, I experience that a lot. It's very I'm experiencing that right now, honestly, is where I'm at. Is like I I don't know how to write on my own beats right now, like because if I do try, I I'm like this sucks. Like it's like it's fine if I was doing a high school project to write a rap song, I could turn it in and get an A. But I personally am like, nah, this sucks.
Yeah, I feel.
It's just like, ooh, it's too much of me, or it's too much of something I've already done before. But when you start getting someone else in there, you start getting other people's influence, and that's what's like the best. Is even if it's just someone else's beat,
Yeah.
you're working off. You didn't have to worry about that beat. You don't have any thoughts of what you were thinking to put on that beat while you're making that beat.
A lot of the work's already done for you.
A lot of the work's already done for you, even if the beat's not mixed yet.
Yeah.
All you got to do is mix it. Then you don't have, even if the beats, say that someone just sends you like a 50-second snippet and it's like, I'll arrange it however. Even if you're just working with that, like, there's so much more of someone else's like work and influence, and just like less of you to focus on, so you can focus on making the music.
Yeah, exactly. There's less sort of there's less noise to carve through. Ironically, there's a lot more clarity to where your ideas are landing, and because of that, it becomes a lot easier to write on. Historically, just in like the other day, I was going through a lot of my works in progress, and like every time I hit a feature verse, regardless as to like the context of it, I felt stronger about it than I did a lot of my own like solo stuff.
Yeah, and that hopefully and ostensibly, saying for myself as well, is something that will pass, hopefully.
Yeah. I think it will.
And because how long were you working on Grimoire?
Oh my god. That's a good question. I know that there was like time on some of the beats on that. Like oh my god. The beat for Gifted is one that I finished probably last summer, I want to say. Sometime around then. It was not super early on in that year, but like it took me some time to work past that, and that isn't like an extremely long time, but it's like a while for me to still be willing to touch a work in progress for me, admittedly. I was working on that for not long, but as time went on, more of what I was looking for started to come together, which is good. The majority of it was recorded in what I'd say spring of this year, and a little bit of winter of last year.
All right. So yeah, that's a really solid chunk of time. Were you working on like other things as well, or were you mainly focusing on this release?
I wasn't working on any other projects, like primarily at that point. I've not been working on too many more holistic actual works with this particular musical moniker of mine. I don't think I couldn't, but I feel like it'd be a lot to put on my brain right now. and I feel like I'd end up in a production hell for like 6 years about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're also working on other projects. What are your other monikers? What other projects are you working on? Like, other projects do you have? I guess even.
Ooh,
there's a lot of using the word project, but
yeah, I get that.
I guess monikers do you have that you release music as?
Ooh, oh my god. Currently, the only active one is d4taless, I will say, but there's at least an album and a half's worth of playing material for a collab project between me and an alter of mine that are not necessarily like in the tank, but like just about there. That's what Mother Verity with me and Verity. Previously, I used the names Vaughn and just Verity before I stole that name from an alter of mine, and I haven't returned it, but she's using it more actively, which is real.
All right. Yeah. So that's a lot of, I guess, in-house work is the best way to describe that. Like,
I be doing
it's a lot of
in-house.
Yeah. That's a lot of in-house work. Like, so I can definitely see how you're in the position you are with, the stuff you're working on with d4taless that is, purely d4taless and versus features, is there's so much, you have so much in-house that there is, it's creating, truly like a bigger echo chamber.
Decidedly.
So I get, I feel like it should pass for you. I feel like you're just at a burnout point. And it should just pass as soon as the candle gets relit,
Almost definitely. It's just like a matter of when I really get the opportunity, like, and the time and the motivation to actually move forward with more stuff. I have so many. God, each track for me is complex because I tend to write and record and just do everything myself, which is fine, but for me takes way too much time because I pay too much attention to every little detail. So I have a fair few tracks that I really basically just need to record and then actually engineer out from there. But a lot of potential work. There's a lot of in-house work. You're definitely right about that.
Yeah.
I'd be working on concepts a lot.
So speaking of in-house, what does the studio look like? What's your in-house studio look like?
Ooh, I'm not gonna lie. It looks like a desk with a laptop and a Throm-Max mic and a pop filter on it with a couple of monitors. I can't remember what I think they're creative.
Damn. So you have, brands aside, about the same setup that everyone else on labgrown has. Besides, and my first analog act, the band Expert Timing, they don't have a studio. They have a practice room in their house, and then they have, someone else's studio that they described to me.
That's real. That's understandable.
So, yeah, I had to really breach to make that lab grown. But I established in that episode that anywhere where music is being created is the lab. Even if it's just you and a guitar, that's still the lab. You're labbing.
That's fair.
We're not, as digital artists, leaving people out from the joy of saying, I'm just labbing. I'm in the stew.
For like years, the lab for me was just my bed or my bedroom. And I would just set my laptop on that and record and produce mostly. I did a shit ton of production from 2017 to 2020.
Yeah, we were doing laptop production at the same time. I did not ever use my desk to produce from 2017 to 2019. Mm-hmm. I was always in the living room with my laptop on my lap, just clicking in that MIDI. I finally adapted to a desk. and now I've got a PC, so I have to have a desk.
Oh, that's real. That's understandable.
Yeah. So you told me your equipment. Let's talk sampling. I have seen you produce before. Back at we had a MIDI click meeting,
True.
and you were just producing the whole time. It was great. Like we all had something to listen to.
Hey, I was happy to
And that
provide.
was, yeah, that was. So I know firsthand how you made music then. But how are you doing it now? How are you making your beats? When are you sampling, and what are you sampling? If you're doing it, you don't have to snitch on yourself. You can, but
It's okay. It's all right. I will. I be sampling. I don't sample a ton. I don't produce the majority of my drum samples themselves. I have like an expansive collection of kits. I'm not gonna lie. I got.
that's the way to do it.
Yeah, I've been building those out for years and years and years. I had to prune it the other day, and I dropped like 13 gigs just on a whim. Like, it was a lot.
Ooh.
I
Yeah, because you're on a laptop. You can't really have too many external hard drives.
yeah.
Can't hoard too much. But I cut you off. I apologize.
No, you're fine. Yeah, I had to trim that weight. I started out making music in general by remixing music, usually remixing video game music. So a lot of my early sample work in general revolved around video game music, and it still does today, at least in part. But the samples themselves get a lot more esoteric. There are times when I'll just like find an archive of old video game music, and I'll literally just like click through a bunch of random tracks until I find something that catches my ear, and then I save it and I hold on to it for later. I collect samples from every streaming service that I use, but that's really just Spotify and YouTube, and I have extensive playlists of things that I need to sample there. God, I don't always, and I don't super often at this stage, but like, I make a lot of work nowadays that's derivative, less in concept and more in like the literal specific sound of it. And when I tend to want to just fuck around with like the percussion of something or like individual aspects of it, I'll set it to a sample so as to give it a lot more breathing room, because samples are I've been sampling for so long at this point that like just as a primary mode of production, that it's second nature to a degree. At the very least, when I find one, I know how to slice a loop out of it and where to chop things if I really want to chop them real tight. But even if not, how to manipulate it in a way that makes it usable in the way that I need it to be. Usually through EQing, just mixing in general. It's fun. I've been making a lot of drum and bass recently, and just yesterday I think I sampled a Raven Lene track that's been stuck in my head for weeks at this point.
Hell yeah. I would like to see you and Dot End, our other Jar of member.
Of course.
Fellow Jar of member. I want to see you two have like a chop off and see who like in like 5 minutes or less like chops like the sample the tightest. Do you know what I mean? Just like chop it, make a loop, do it in like, see who can do it the best in 5 minutes. That'd just be very fun to watch.
That'd be interesting.
Cause like, yeah, their chop very accurate.
I've laid witness to their chop game. It is considerable.
Yeah. But so when you are producing, do you think about lyrics while you're producing a song or an instrumental, or do you wait until the instrumental's been made, let it stew, come back to it when you're ready to write something?
Oh, it's impossible for me to do. Like, I am
so impatient with my music specifically. When for some reason, like I have a ton of patience for just about everything else in my life, but when it comes to this, it has to be snappy as possible. So I tend to like usually by not even by the time that I'm finished arranging a beat that I just finished producing, like I'll already be thinking about lyrics just because it's been in my head for so long. At the least like the flow will be in there.
Hell yeah. That's like, that is something that you're just like basically wired to set yourself up to have things like every time you finish a beat, you almost have a whole song, like you almost have a song in the vault. You have a concept in the vault at least.
Yeah. Exactly. But then it comes down to
Yeah.
actually making certain that those themselves can hold weight. Because not all of those ideas are beautiful and perfect as much as I would like for them to be.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Because first thought is not always the best thought.
Yeah. For real.
I learned that. I've learned that in life, but I learned that in music, specifically when I was trying to just freestyle.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the freestyle, but I said something about becoming like I was really I was trying to work on my chops, you know. So I was trying to freestyle every day. And most of the time I got the gibberish, but I was doing pretty good that day. If I had to turn that in, you know, I'd be embarrassed that I said that, but I'd still probably get an A for the project. Yet I said something about being like a human centipede and having my mouth as someone else's ass, and it had a good flow. It rhymed, but I was talking about being a human centipede, and I was like, "Ooh." First thought's not best thought. I'm gonna think about things a little bit more.
That's real. Kodak Black taught me that.
I've been. So when you're writing lyrics, when you're actually writing them, what is the goal? What are you trying to get out of, I guess, making a song past making an instrumental?
To say something cohesive, to say it differently than I've said it before, and to really push myself in terms of what I'm expressing and how I'm expressing it when I do. And to make something that somebody wants to actually fucking listen to multiple times at the end of it.
I will say that from experience, you do that well.
Hey, thank you.
You saw my YouTube wrap up for the summer.
I did, yeah.
My top 5 songs were all the 5 songs off the EP.
That's real. I recall.
Cause like, yeah, that shit just really clicked with me, and I wanted to say it to you vocally. I've said it on the internet over text, or not text, over Twitter DMs and Twitter. Just tweeting about it because I loved it so much, but like really solid release, like start to finish. Not one thing that I personally would be like, oh, I wouldn't have done that if it was for me. I wouldn't have done that. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
When you get that way about things, it's like. You get really critical because like you're listening to it like why do I like this so much? And it's like there's not a single thing that I'd be like, I would change that, or probably not. There's not like a single time I have played your music and my partner has said, skip this. So that's always good.
That's a good sign. I'll take that. Yeah.
Like, yeah, there's a couple songs that from other people in the scene that come on and they're like, not this one. Like I get it.
Yeah, I understand that at times.
And there's you know, big artists too, like that, you know, they come on and I'm like, not this one. And that's a lot, especially Have you ever listened to Sewer Person?
I feel as though I have inadvertently heard some Sewer Person, but I don't know if I've ever intentionally listened to Sewer Person. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm gonna say it right now on the podcast. Sewer Person. First of all, first thought is not best thought, Miles. Sometimes it's funny if you got a good studio take where someone's like, "Dog, that's not how you say that," but that was a good one. But his newest album, the Comet 4,
Yeah.
absolute dog shit.
Damn. That's rough.
So the production, that one was with Jabari on the beat. Clean production, good rap production. The vocal mix, solid, tight.
Alright, okay.
The words he's actually saying, if you listen to it critically,
Yeah.
you guys have to turn it. You just gotta like, not this song. Turn this off. This is stupid. What are you saying?
That's rough. That's unfortunate.
But sometimes, especially as a freestyler, but always as a musician, like sometimes especially he's just been going. He's been dropping like 5 albums, every quarter.
Yeah.
Like, dropping like crazy. So
On his King Gizzard
you do
shit.
kind of, if you're talking that much, that often, if you're just in the studio that much, that often, and you're not out living life, I guess if you're a career musician, you have time for life, right?
Yeah.
But even then,
like 3 albums
you're putting
a
that much
year.
music out. Like 3 albums a year is probably like the most anyone should be doing, right?
That's fair.
Because you still got time. Because you still get time to like live life and have something to come to the mic with. But at some point, especially in like rap, especially with that like Comet 4, you're just like saying bullshit.
Yeah.
Like it's just words that rhyme that you've said before, but this time you said it a little different.
Yeah.
But it's still just like my girl, my whip, weed. Like
That's exactly what I tried to
Like, you haven't-
evade in my songwriting process.
But like, and that's something that while you personally, Data,
Yeah.
I think you should be a career musician. I wish that everybody was streaming your shit, and you could pay your bills that way. So you could just focus on that and not have to worry about anything
I
else.
appreciate that. I would love that, honestly. That'd be pretty nice.
Yeah. It's like there's more qualified candidates to be in Sewer Person's shoes.
Yeah, I get that.
But, however, by not being in Sewer Person's shoes, you are able to live more life.
That's true. That's fair.
But yeah, but when a song is written, recorded, mixed,
Yeah.
mastered,
All the fixings on it.
how long does that take you?
Oh, fuck. It can vary disturbingly wildly. I'm not gonna lie. Because sometimes it's been like probably 4 or 5 days and I like scare myself a little bit. And then sometimes it takes like a month and a half for one song. And I don't like that very much. And it's not because it's too long necessarily, but it's a lot of that time is spent with me listening to the ideas that I've developed, mulling them over in my head, going, not enough, and then not thinking of anything to follow up with, or like to build in on that with. And the frustrating part of that, like, is the part that makes it take so long. So like sometimes it's aggravating a little bit, but it doesn't tend to take way too long. For a little while, I was putting out like a song a month or so, and that was a fun pace for me. I appreciated that.
That's a really solid pace to have, and still like, have time to do other things.
That's real.
But still, and not necessarily do other things outside of music if you don't want to. If you want to do things outside of music, like song a month, like, yeah. Personally, like, if I wanted to drop singles, I'd be doing that. Maybe. Maybe it's not that easy. Maybe I'll find out.
It could be. It's pretty solid. It's fun to be able to completely enclose a work in just the one piece, and then be able to tie it up in a pretty little fucking bow and be done with it in like a normal people amount of time, instead of having to really put your whole weight into processing all of it cohesively. Not that it's just like infinitely easier in the slightest, but it's just it can be more immediately satisfying, I'll say.
You get yourself, like a monthly treat of the serotonin, like even just the serotonin of putting something you're proud of on SoundCloud.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's going to be on my SoundCloud page forever. I'm never going to take that down. That was a solid work. Like,
I try to make that like every track for me. And to a degree, I haven't had to take anything down so far, I don't think. Not that I can remember. Which is ideal. I'd call that a success. And that's a part of why I haven't put out a full album yet.
On that note, how often do you listen to your own music?
Oh God. When it comes to like actual released tracks, not very often, because by the time that I'm ready to actually put them out, it is because I have chewed on them for so long that I understand every little nook and cranny and I don't want it in my head anymore. So I release it.
Fair enough.
It's out. And that's nice. But when it comes to my like works in progress, or even just like my beats, it's like, oh God, like a disquieting amount. It's like probably a third of the music that I listen to sometimes, because it's just, that's a part of what helps me to continue to work on it, is always having a little bit of it in my head.
Yeah. And that's like a really, I'd say a third is a healthy amount.
Okay. All right.
That's what I personally would say is a healthy amount. When it starts being 3/4, that's what maybe you're thinking about. You should either be in like a critical state of like the development of those songs, or there needs to be some other like that.
You need fulfillment.
You must have not listened. But there needs to be some point where it's like you need to listen to something else, because you're gonna hit that echo. You're gonna hit that echo chamber.
Exactly. That's very fair.
Even if you're being your biggest fan about everything, even if you, especially if you're listening to stuff and you're like, oh, I just wrote 24 songs in 2 days, and I'm listening to them nonstop. I love them. Maybe you should listen to other music and like remember what like published music sounds like, and then come back to your works in progress and be like, okay, so maybe these aren't the best ideas, or maybe they are, and that's like wonderful. But from personal experience, like if you're listening to your own music too much, and it's not for developmental purposes,
it's not ideal.
It's
not good for you.
It's not good for you. If it's not, every listen is trying to figure out what else I'm going to do with it, it's not good for you. You get too full of yourself, and you just kind of, you like plateau, because you're not
you're not developing your ideas. Like
you're not developing your ideas, because you're not developing ideas, and you have nothing else to influence you, even to not even to necessarily directly influence you like sonically, but to influence you just like spiritually.
Like there's no more stuff that you're thinking about, and because of that, like all your ideas are gonna sound either samey or like you made 24 of them in like a day.
Speaking of 24 tracks, though, not speaking of 24 tracks, actually, hold on. On the podcast, I'm going to ask you, did you ever hear anything I wrote when we were at MIDI Click? Any of the tracks that, like my works in progress then?
I definitely heard some, but me having experienced something and me having memory of it are unfortunately two very different things in my life at this time.
Yeah. No, honestly, that's the I can tell that's a very genuine answer, and you're not hiding an opinion, which means you didn't hear like my. So I have an LP out that has a couple songs from that era that my delivery I was proud of, so I keep it up.
Yeah.
Otherwise, not good songs.
Okay, that's real.
But there's a point where I was like pumping out like a ton of songs, and they were all like the same song, and they were all, for the most part, in retrospect, dog shit.
Yeah,
So I'm saying it too. Sewer Person's new album and my old music, dog shit.
hey, that's fair. I not to not to be like, yes, you're right. That was bad work, but I
No, please agree with me.
I understand.
This is where you admit you were. No, actually, I remember all of it.
I will never say that. My shit is whacked out, but like, I definitely I get what you mean. Sometimes it's just a less pleasant era. You know, you start chewing on your own butt a little too much musically, and you stop producing things that are of real note. I kind of get
Yeah.
what you're saying to a degree. What it's not necessarily all about the output speed or quality inherently. I think it's more so just like down to making certain that you're making work. I don't tend to judge the specific shittiness of some of my works just because I know that like I'll always look back in retrospect and think it's a little better. I'll always look at it right after I made it and think this is one of the best or this is one of the fucking worst things that I've ever made in my life. And like because of that, like my work will never appear to me with a clear enough lens for me to make a proper judgment on it. Admittedly, I just don't feel like that's.
Yeah, because like I said, there's that LP out that has a couple of them. It's because like I'm still like that's my kid, you know.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna disown this
Yeah.
entirely. Like I made that. I'm not gonna disown it entirely, but I am gonna say that you probably aren't gonna ever hear it. You know what I mean?
That's fair. I have at least an entire scrapped album's worth of works each for every moniker that I've used so far. Like I just will make something and then I'll be like, huh, that is done. I'm done with that now. And then I'll make something else as quickly as possible in order to avoid remembering that I made the shit right before it. Like,
Yeah. Just keep moving. And it's good to be critical enough of yourself to not put everything that you make out.
oh yeah, that's real. I put out maybe probably about 5% on what I work on and probably about 10% on what I like end up finishing because I don't get a lot of time to record, and because of that I get really extra judicious about my beats, and I have what people have probably heard like half of what I've made in the last month maximum, like total, like have been heard by anyone other than me. Like I don't tend to let people in on my shit, and I definitely don't tend to release as much of it as I make. Like a lot of my works in progress are just never coming out because I'm never gonna come back to them because the ideas are cooked. It's just done so.
Yeah. And that's like perfectly fine and honestly like a really, again, healthy way to do art and still try to become some sort of public music figure, you know?
That's real.
To allow yourself to make art and then, you know, just share the cream of the crop, you know, not worry about everything I have to make has to be shared. You know, it's just like I should finish everything maybe. Like that's good that you have a lot of stuff that is finished that's not out and won't be out. Like you finish those things. You don't have a ton of, you know, like you probably do also have just like a ton of old works in progress that you abandoned and things like that too. But it's good to say like, oh, I wrapped this up, like, and I did every step of the process. So you did, you know, like when you're saying you have like things finished, you like mixed, mastered, you know, like ready, you know, sonically ready for streaming services.
Just about, or at the least to the point where I could like do, if I wanted to, spend like 2 maybe 3 hours maximum total time readying it to that point and like just be done with it. I try not to keep too much unfinished business as much as I end up with unfinished work, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that's good for your chops. Like, you know, every step of the way, that just keeps you being good at it. You know, especially engineering. Like, you're actively engineering often. Mm-hmm. So, which like versus me who doesn't engineer until I'm like, am I gonna put this out? So my engineering, like your engineering is, you know, I would say about, you know, leagues ahead of me, to be over exaggerative, but
probably
your engineering is better than mine, and that is largely in part of because you engineer more often.
I will say I do this shit too much. It's like a third of what I come home after work and I smoke my weed and I lay down for my little nap time if I have one, and then I either do some other shit or I produce music. That's about it. Like it's just decidedly an activity in which I engage with frequency. So it's always like on my mind, and as a result of that, I'm definitely always engineering the shit that I'm making.
Just another like thought of where that lies. Do you have like any other artistic outlets that you partake in?
Oh,
partake in.
Fair. I like. Oh God, I regular write sometimes. I don't tend to like write narrative works, but I'll. You know how some people keep like normal just diaries that just happen to continue for like a day's entry and then stop.
Yeah.
Instead of that, I write nothing for like days, and then I'll feel something, and then I'll write all of the thoughts that I have about it for like 6,000 words in like 4 hours over like work and a bus ride and just whatever extra time I have. I take a lot of pictures too. I got a camera recently. I
Ooh.
don't necessarily engage in digital photography, but I be taking pictures of shit, and there's a weird degree of expression that you can sort of imbue into an image just by way of the way that you take it, if that makes sense. The settings that you use, the individual like elements of the framing and of the editing of a photograph. You can put a lot of energy into that shit, and it's good.
I genuinely miss having a camera.
Yeah.
I have like a Coolpix now, like still.
Ooh.
Just like it's just like an automatic camera, you know. Mm-hmm. It's old, but like I definitely get what you're saying from like experience. There's so much like, and it doesn't necessarily always have to be like conscious while you're doing it. It could be like you finish, you know, you take the picture and you look back on it and you feel something from what you did, and you're like, you didn't intentionally make something you take this picture to feel something. But you get that. Yeah, but you're like, whoa. I took this picture and like, I don't know, it's just something about the way it looks. I really like it. you know?
It still contains degrees of your artistic vision just because of the way that you took it, and certainly the way that taking photos works as a medium. It's very simplistic to carry such expression there, and I kind of love that about it. God.
Yeah, no, that's really cool though. It's dope also to be like outside of music to have like artistic hobbies. Or you know what I mean? Just like having something that is also that doesn't necessarily have to go anywhere. You just do it.
That's fair. It's. I find a lot more joy in sometimes in the works that I don't really release in any meaningful way at all than in the works that I like really put my time and energy into, because I find myself A, worrying way less about what other people fucking think about it, and B, worrying about the work itself less after I'm done doing it. It takes up less real estate in my head, so it can really just be just the expressive medium that it is and not necessarily have to do anything else for me, which I like.
Love hearing it. Truly, like, because that's like the reason I asked that was because you know from the internet that I do collaging, I do visualizers.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, I hit my I got a Delta 10 pen. Even though I live in a legal state, I still bought Delta 10.
Hey, that's real.
It supposedly has a different tolerance than like regular dab carts. So I will say that I definitely feel like a different high from it.
It's a different THC, so it binds to different receptors.
Absolutely. So shout out Cake Brand carts. Your Delta 10 rules. I'll say
Niggas fuck with the cake bars, that's real. I've heard tell.
Oh, good God. I wish I could listen to what I said, like, while I'm still recording. But what was I saying before I brought up Delta 10? Oh, I know what it was. The reason I had asked about all of any other artistic endeavors is because, as you know, I have like all these other artistic endeavors that I actually like put the energy to try to make profit off of, not necessarily always financial profit, but like, especially like I have someone mixing a beat tape for me in exchange for like whatever their rate is for mixing that beat tape. I'm doing that equal amount of art for them. And I'm very blessed that Tone Deaf, shout out Tone Deaf, is doing it for an art exchange, because I do not have Tone Deaf's budget.
That's I understand.
But I can make that much art. Believe you me. But like that's really, but so much that like it's like, well, now I have to give this person like the same labor back in this artistic endeavor.
You got to put your whole bones into any art that you make for him.
So being a jack of all trades and trying to profit or gain attention, garner a following with multiple of those trades is probably why I'm outsourcing my mixing. Is like, well, also it is why I'm doing it, so I have time to do other things.
That's fair.
Is Josen? Do you know who Josen is?
I'm familiar with Josen, yes.
Yeah, they were like, they saw me make a tweet and they're like, that's true bartering. And it really is. It's true bartering is like just doing a labor swap.
I love that shit. I hate capital, so it's wonderful to see it like bastardized in such a beautiful and effectual manner. It really helps both of you out pretty directly. It's nice.
Yeah. Speaking of helping out directly, if you want to give d4taless pennies, pennies on the stream, pennies on the hundreds of streams, probably you have to probably stream each song 100 times to give Data a penny. However,
Spotify.
what do you have out now And where can it be found?
I have an EP called Grimoire out on Spotify and Apple Music, just anywhere you get your streaming right now. I got DistroKid, so they hit me up with all the particulars in terms of distribution, and that's cutesy. It's not. I mean, it fucking works. What I have SoundCloud. I'm just dataless on all of these. That's D4taless. Like data, but less of it. But also there's a 4 instead of the first day because it's hyper pop.
Yeah, it's definitely hyper pop.
It's digicore, you know.
Yeah. Now that's a closer thing to
I'd
say.
allow someone to continue talking if they called my shit digicore. I'd feel a little taken aback if they were like the hyperpop artist, datalist.
Yeah, that's like a better umbrella to throw you under. Granted, like both of those are umbrella terms. I will say in defense of hyperpop, and to no offense to either of us, you and I do not make hyperpop that would go on the hyperpop playlist.
Fair.
However, because we are making music at this time digitally, that is pop music.
True.
In some degree, we are making hyperpop.
That's fair. I think it's just sort of, it's pretty difficult not to be making hyperpop right now if you're not making some specific established form of...
yeah, any established form of like...
genre-ass music. Like,
really solid, yeah. If you're not doing just like true blue type beats that aren't hyperpop type beats, you know?
Yeah.
You are doing something that people are, especially like the average Joe Schmo that doesn't know anything about hyperpop and what is and is not.
Yeah, they're gonna call
acceptable to be called hyperpop. They're gonna call it hyperpop.
They're gonna call it hyperpop. They like doing that. It's okay though. At least it's not glitchcore anymore. That was rough.
Yeah.
It was rough.
I avoided. So the days in which I probably would have been called glitchcore, I was not actively doing the same thing I'm doing now.
That's real.
I was doing like some just like bonkers instrumental stuff. I used a lot of samples from Community. I will say that.
Right.
Did do a lot of sampling. So I credited Childish Gambino on those tracks.
Oh shit. Damn, really pulling together that feature work. My God.
Yeah. But yeah, so you got that music out on sites, but what do you have the EP out? I think you also have Candy Floss out, right?
Yeah. I have a fair few singles out on my SoundCloud.
Oh, you have the newest single. Can you say the name for me? I don't know what it's called. I don't know how to say that.
It's called Twirene.
That's what you say it in a song, but I'm like, I could not say that right now.
No, it's okay.
As you can hear. Live on the podcast, the edibles are really hitting me, team.
Proud of you. You're doing great, friend.
Yeah, that recent single,
Twirene.
Yes. Tell me a little about that production-wise. What was your influences there?
Ooh.
What were you pulling from? Besides, obviously, you're pulling from the dataless sound that you have established your umbrella of sound, you know?
That's fair.
Because it sounds like, you know, a dataless track. I turned it on, I was like, this is Data. For sure, like, you don't even have to put the tag. I know who it is.
You were correct. That's fair.
But yeah, tell me a little about that track.
God, in terms of productive influences, I'd say I've been listening to a lot of Exodus 1900 lately. And his shit is tight. It's on lock. That track was produced right around the time that I was trying to make a lot of Death Connie type shit, and I'd just been listening to like a ton of Exodus 1900, and every once in a while, like I tend to go for more like just by default, my instinct when it comes to producing tracks is usually softer, more, I guess, tonally saccharine instrumental sounds to run with. Like I don't fuck with most heavy electronic presets, but every once in a while I'll just sort of like take one out and be like, this is angry, and I like that, and I'll use that. I really like I really like making multiple parts of the same beat structure, like the same melodic structure in the same instrument, and that's one that really hit for me on this track specifically. I'll say it's called Twirene as a reference to a video game called Pathologic. It's a really bizarre game, like an obscure one. It's Russian produced. It's an RPG from, God, I want to say like 2008. Twirene is an alcoholic beverage that you can acquire in game, and it reminded me of tequila, so I wrote a song about it.
Hell yeah, that's the lore we needed to know.
I'm glad. That's good. It's produced from the twire of the steppe.
My brain just froze.
No, you're good. That's the vibe.
I was really hoping you were going to keep going, just so like I didn't have to.
No, I still can.
Remember what I was going to say.
That's all right.
Yeah, can you keep going? I'm going to cut this part out. Keep going.
Yeah, for sure. God, one of my major influences in terms of sort of songwriting around that time was also decidedly Kuru. I had he likes to throw down these really long fucking lines. That's what I was doing there a little bit. Sort of line structures that sound like 2 or 3 lines in a shorter, snappier song. It just sort of hits me all at once sometimes, that I can fuse lines in ways that don't always make sense but are really good to listen to. So I went on very strange extended flows on that shit, and that was fun. Mixing that, like vocally mixing that, was a fun process for me, because I've been getting a little more confident about my recordings lately, and this is one that I got almost everything from in like 1 take each, maybe per line, which is good, because sometimes recording this shit can take like hours, and this took 45 minutes. This is one that I finished in like 4 days.
Ooh.
Yeah, I went a lot simpler in terms of like the individual ideas I was trying to incorporate, so as to not let myself like take 3 years on it, and it paid off. I'd say I got real fast and loose with the mix, which is why it sounds so raw, and why it's so fucking loud. It's very loud, and that was on purpose, because my music for a while was mixed a lot quieter than I would have preferred for it to be, and I sort of, almost to prove it to myself that I could, made a very, very loud track there, and I mean, the mix was still clean in spite of the loudness of it, which was a lot of what I was looking for, and it turned out in that way, which is good.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like a very clean track. I really want to commend you on, like, going long with the lines. That's something, especially in rap, I like when people are getting, weird with the songs, like the lines, when you're taking elements, like, in poetry, especially like, I guess contemporary poetry, they start to use spaces and hitting the tab key in different ways, and like everything's spaced out differently in a way that conveys it, or it's all crammed up differently.
They physically structure the poetry differently in order to convey meaning through like the inherent portrayal of the words themselves. Like the way that you fucking look at it affects how you process what they're saying. It's really interesting.
And to incorporate that kind of vibe to, that almost like hitting that boundary of like spoken word almost, like to really get so poetic with it. I just really want to commend you on that. I mean, you do that generally. You aren't like a simplistic writer. You aren't a simplistic deliverer.
Sometimes I feel like I'd like to
By
be,
any
but
means.
it'd choke out my lyrics. It'd be rough. My shit wouldn't be as good, I don't feel like.
It makes it very original, especially like buying gas at the gas station where you're supposed to get it at. Like that delivery, that's one of those things that like made that EP just like, I love this. I love this. Like the way you space it, the way you deliver it, and like just what you're saying too is, yeah, it's another example of that like very poetic delivery structure, and that's a really fun one, and it really, especially that part in that song, like really expresses you as a person in your songwriting
I'm glad. I'm happy to hear that
and your delivery.
my shit's coming through. My delivery is always something that I'm a little anxious about. So I'm happy to hear that shit's coming in. That line specifically is a, oh my god! I swear I think it was a little baby song that had me thinking like, huh. I don't have to stop talking at all, do I? I can just say a whole like four ideas at once and just have that be the whole line, and it was. And that shit is, I mean, it worked. I really enjoy fucking around with my delivery and structure like that because I tend to write things very syllabically straight. Like I could deliver my lines in a lot of different ways based on the way that I end up actually structuring out the lines themselves, and because of that I really get fucking weird with the way that I deliver them. The ideas themselves, when structured differently, convey meaning differently. So if you fuck around with them a little more, you can get a little more out of it.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's why like that's a big reason why like I listen to your music so often, is because like you really do things differently in a sound palette that is very, I wouldn't say common, but like the sound palette that I'm looking for, while still doing things differently and not just being generic. Because like there's people that don't necessarily like sound like you, but people who are using the same samples as you, or the same, maybe using like weaker melodies for sure. But like this, like the same, like using the same sound palettes you are, the same like vocal production, and just like not really pushing the bounds of art the way you are, which is, yeah, really want to commend you on that again.
Hey, thank you. That's well appreciated. I try to keep like the palette of sound from which I draw at least familiar enough that it's still palatable to the ear. You know, people can still hear it and recognize like what they're hearing, even if not necessarily what's being said or what's being conveyed. You know, I like for my music to be as listenable as possible without it being so esoteric that people have no fucking clue what they're hearing.
While still being esoteric, being original and being self-expressive, which is something I feel like really makes you lab grown. You know, I feel like, because how long have you been making music? As you're in the questions, you saw I skipped that.
I'll show you. It's okay.
How long have you been making music? I like to just change it up, but how long have you been making music?
Oh God, like we're coming up on 6 years in December. I want to say since like late 2016, probably the last week of 2016.
All right, yeah, that's like a long time, and that's been all production and vocals.
Just production that long, actually. Vocals I started in college, so probably around 2018 or 19 for that.
When did you start taking it seriously, though?
Ooh,
When did it surpass being a hobby, you know?
when I finished, I was really getting into the thick of it right around the time that I was about to graduate high school. And I realized at that point in my life that I had no fucking idea in reality what I wanted to do like with my life in terms of like specifically going out and getting a career and doing all those things. This was while I was looking at colleges and efforts to do that shit. And the one thing that I like had not a single bit of trouble convincing myself to do that whole time was producing music. That was something that always just flowed to me, and something that was very immediately satisfactory in a way that almost nothing else I had been doing was. So it kind of helped me at that point to understand that what I was doing was something that I could make myself proud with, and something that I could show to other people and be like, hey, I fucking do a thing every once in a while, and I think it's pretty nice, and have them agree and sort of understand what I'm going for. And that was helpful considerably. It was one of the only, like, it still is one of the only expressive media that I've really had throughout most of my life at this point. So it's good to, it was good to recognize that around that point. That was probably, 2017, 18. A couple years in, I realized that I was getting decent enough to keep going with it. So I kept doing it.
Yeah, hell yeah. So, yeah, you've definitely had your time to grow in the lab, for sure. And so what we're seeing is, like, truly, like, especially, like, the EP, that's, like, a very good, you're always going to have that landmark in time. And as long as you have DistroKid, it's always going to be on streaming of, this was how good I was then. And so we have your next one, and this is how good I am now. You know what I mean?
I really like uploading things to the internet now, because the longer I spend time, I'm a big ass file nabber. I'm not gonna lie. My parents taught me how to use BitTorrent by accident, and that's nice. But because of that, am very acutely aware of how constantly ideas and just data from one part of the internet ends up completely on the other side of it in a very unrelated way, just enclosed in something else. And I find the sort of the fact that realistically I have no clue where my shit is gonna end up in like 8 to 10 years, even if I really get super successful, or even if I stop doing this in a year and never do it again, God forbid, that's still gonna be somewhere. And I have no clue where or how. It's just sort of in the ether now. And I really enjoy that a lot.
Yeah, it's a really good feeling, because, like,
It's in the wires now.
how often do you log onto SoundCloud?
Oh God, at least like once a week. Probably, sometimes once a day for good stretches. Just not usually to check my insights or fucking whatever, but more so to glance around, see who's releasing what, and where my shit's gone, I suppose.
Because, like, it's always good, just, like, so I have 3 SoundClouds now, right? So I'm probably going back to, like, once a month checking my, like, SoundCloud that I have music on, and seeing the, like, just how many plays I had that week. It's always interesting just to be like, I had 3 plays. Even if it's like, I had 3 plays this week, I haven't uploaded music in, like, a month. Like, where'd that go? Like, who's listening?
Yeah.
And it's always, that's, like, the good thing about having it. Sorry, I had to cough. In the ether.
No, that's real. Yeah, exactly. That shit's in the wires now. You know, nobody can take that from you, and to a degree, it can't really be taken away, which has its own consequences. But I don't know, when it's something this sort of, when it's something that I've already spent so much time and thought making sure that I want out there, it's something I don't super mind being God knows where at this point. And I kind of love that about it. Like, it's like I'm throwing it into the ocean in a bottle, you know?
Especially, you're very low key about releasing stuff.
Yeah, I don't know how to promote myself.
I don't see, like when the EP was out, I didn't see, like, I saw a couple tweets. You know, you made a couple tweets. Hey, this is out. You know, but you weren't, like, daily, like, here's a snippet from this, like, blah blah blah. Here's all the links. You know, you weren't heavily promoting your things, so you really were genuinely like putting that message in a bottle and sending it off to sea. And like, you know, I definitely grabbed that message, and there's still much more time for other people to pick that bottle up out of the sea. And it's a short listen. It's a great listen.
I enjoy it personally. I'm the one who put it out. Shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's not to speak down on you, but because I personally think there is more genuine, if you're not like promoting constantly, you know what I mean? I think there's something more genuine about the music.
I don't tend to play the social media game too much. I spend a disturbing amount of time on Twitter. I don't like it very much. I try to stop, but I'm not good at it. But I try my best not to overblow the amount of time I spend promoting my stuff, because while it does really get it into people's heads when they super know about it, and that's nice, I'm not in it for the numbers enough to really, really want to promote. And I'm bad enough at promoting on its own that I don't feel much obligation to do much other than just be like, hey, it's here. You want to hear it? I mean, it's right here, you know? You can find it right here if you want. I try not to really disseminate my work more than the one time and let it have its day, because then I'll deliberate on it too long, you know? And it starts to make me feel more like my art is a product, and I don't tend to feel as happy about the work itself when I'm mired in sort of how people are viewing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That like makes total sense. That's why like when I promote things now, and like when I promoted things in the past, it was lackluster promotion, and now like I do have like good promo stuff, but I'm really just being like, hey, honestly, just look at this 45-second snippet. That's all I need.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to listen to the whole half-hour LP. Like, it's fine. Just check this 45-second snippet out. Look at this cool art I made. Look at me in my office rapping. It's pretty cool. And, like, that's it. But, like, with this podcast I'm going to tell you, Data, your plays aren't going to go up.
That's okay.
I get about 10 listens a week, and 4 of them are complete occasionally. And 5 of them are usually not of the podcast. They're of the 420 comp that I organized.
That's fair. That's real.
But you and I still get to feel real good about this conversation.
Yeah.
Because I had a fun time. Did you have a fun
I
time?
had a very fun time. It was great to be on.
Yeah, because we are approaching the final stretch of questions. Is what does your life look like outside of music?
Ooh, that's a good question. It's a lot of work. I work as close to full time as I usually can, because I gotta pay rent, which is fun, but it's nice. I work at a coffee shop, which of course I do. I'm a fucking queer person in the
Gay.
2020s. I know. I'm sorry. There was no subtext which could have suggested this in the slightest. I couldn't. God. The fair pronouns really didn't convey to anyone that I might have been a queer person, but I spend time with my partner, my husband. I pet my little cat. I play a lot of video games. As you might have figured from every piece of music I've ever fucking released. I'm very mentally ill, so I spend a lot of time processing that and smoking weed because it helps to process it. I don't know. I wake up. I put my skinny jeans on, one fucking leg at a time, and then I
just like anybody else.
Exactly. You know.
If you are listening to this podcast, that prior admittance of the listens, If you are listening to this podcast, you probably do wear skinny jeans.
I'm
so-
sorry. I know how to. I read people. That's one of my skills.
But yeah, you put your skinny jeans on. You big t-shirt wearer.
Admittedly, like to a degree, but also I be wearing some. I'm a flannel ass bitch. I'm a lesbian.
Staying
so
comfy, though.
It's kind of it's in my bones. Right now, I'm wearing a t-shirt and a horizontally striped long sleeve shirt underneath it. I look like a punk character that the main characters aren't supposed to interact with from an episode of like Recess or some shit. Like that's my aesthetic. That's the vibe I try to put out.
Like, yeah, that's a good vibe. Like, don't fuck with me. I'm not gonna like stab you or anything, but I'll probably give you a noogie.
I'll corner you in the back room and give you a swirly. I am
High school bully vibes. I love it. Or not even high school. Sorry, recess is like not recess. What show did you say? God,
I did
damn
say
it.
recess actually. I can't.
Recess. You did say
Oh God,
recess.
I can't remember. I can't remember. Oh my God, when recess is supposed to. Holy shit, that's wild.
Yeah. So you got school bully vibes. Love that. That's what the rap game needs is less like actual bully vibes and just like innocent, swirly given, lyrically profound bully vibes.
Yeah. In spite of what my rap songs convey, I'm not actually going to kill a nigga. And if you are the federal government, you can take that to church with you. You know, you can hold that one down. God damn it. But really, you know, I don't actually try to convey violence. Just like I put out a tough bitch vibe, but you know, I'm all right.
I mean, as a queer person, you kind of gotta, or people like.
Yeah. That's fair.
That's definitely like, I definitely feel like I give like that, especially when I don't shave. I look real like burly, and people, especially, and then I'm like stoned and I don't know what I'm doing. People think I'm gonna like trying to rob them or something. Like, no,
Absolutely fucking not. Just trying to go to 7-Eleven or whatever. Like, it's not.
If I go to 7-Eleven, I know I got my hands in my pockets weird.
It's okay.
I look really disheveled. Like, I'm sorry.
No, leave me alone. You know.
Here's my debit card.
I get on that bus sometimes and people stare at me like I'm a different species. Like, it's wild.
Yeah, dog. Ooh, life is rough, but also life is beautiful and cool.
That's fair.
At the same time.
Yeah.
So the final question of the podcast is, and you can't see it because it's in my brain. It's not on the Google Doc. It's 3 video games you'd recommend to the listeners.
Oh shit! 3 video games I'd recommend.
Any potential listener, past, present, future. 3 video games from the past, present, or perhaps future.
Okay. I mean, really.
I don't know if you have an uncle at Nintendo who's letting you play the new Mario.
I wish. That'd be nice. I've never been the bitch with the uncle at Nintendo. I'm afraid. I'd say, motherfucker. Kingdom Hearts: Birth by Sleep. Fucking, oh my god! Every PS2 era like action RPG personally influenced me in a way that most human beings I've known for years haven't. Like, it's just in me. Holy fuck. Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. Really, like any of the Metal Gear games, or theoretically like a fucking Zone of the Enders game if you really want to get kinky with it. But like just Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance is wonderful. You get to fight a U.S. senator for the last like battle. There's a discussion of memes as like a genuine philosophical concept. Pardon me, it's a wonderful piece of work. I'd argue it's also really fucking fun. It's like a Platinum Games hack and slash. They're classic with it. It's wonderful.
No, you can't go wrong with that, like, at all.
Oh yeah, absolutely not.
Platinum, like, yeah.
They put their whole legs into every combat system that they ever develop, and this game is a very combat centric sword slashy game. It's really good. The fuck off. Let's say. Okay, I can't decide, so you're getting 4.
Yeah, all right, fine. I was just about to be like, all right, just actually give me 2 more.
Shit.
Why not?
Hades by Supergiant is
Hell.
real fucking fun. It's a roguelike, but one with like really convenient and consistent systems that will make certain that you're able to keep playing and that it's as fun as long as you keep playing and you really put in time and it turns the fuck out. It's great. Great soundtrack, really good visuals. Fucking love that shit. And Xenoblade Chronicles. Oh my fucking god. Xenoblade Chronicles is a
All right.
bizarre piece of work because it's like a core fucking monolith soft like JRPG. So there's a lot of shit in it. For one, it took me like 80 hours to finish. You don't have to do all that shit. You don't have to do that, but like
But like,
oh,
sorry to interrupt. Personal experience with that game. I only got like 26 hours in, and I was like, how is this still not
yeah,
done?
it's long as shit, but it's like one of my favorite JRPGs that I've ever played. Like it's obscenely long, but it's so like it keeps. The longer you put time into it, the more weird surprise bullshit it'll give you to play off of, and the more you'll feel satisfied for putting in the time to finish it. And even if you don't, like it's really good. The soundtrack's like phenomenal. I'm definitely gonna be sampling the shit out of some of that coming up. The visuals, especially in like remasters, are really good. The gameplay can be super fun and engaging. It's just it's a good game all around. I like it. It's one of my favorites. I would suggest it.
I can say second that game. It's a good game, quality game. Like it's just it got so long and I just stopped playing it and I was like, I don't know how to start this game up again. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's real.
It's like I might just have to start it from like ground zero.
Oh, it's very real. That's understandable.
But that'd be fine. Probably play it on PC though. Find an emulator because I hate using my Switch.
That's fair.
I'll say it. I'll say it on the podcast. I'm a PC head.
Oh, no wonder you hate that
Can't
Switch,
get enough
then.
of it. Yeah. Very. Especially, I love playing on the keyboard.
Yeah, there's nothing like it.
Yeah. But so, Data,
Ivy.
you officially are a lab-grown alumni. You've made it through the podcast.
My God, I made it through.
I still have yet to make the official certificate, but when I do, you will be receiving that via email. You have to print it yourself.
I understand. I know where libraries are in my area.
But you are officially a lab-grown alumni. Do you have any closing thoughts for the podcast?
Live freely and live broadly. You're alive and living now. Now is the envy of all the dead. Also read Stonebush Blues by Leslie Feinberg. Brilliant fucking writer. Seminal queer media.